Hello, welcome to the Fantasy Town Space
Space
Pod
Fantasy Town.
Space Fantasy Town podcast. This is a little project me and my friends are gonna do to talk about our fantasy football league and maybe some other interesting fantasy football related topics. If y'all want to introduce yourselves.
I'm Jack. I manage the Young Money Gangnam Stylers, currently the Punish Stylers.
Thank you.
4-7-1, fourth of six in the West Division.
Hell yeah.
Um, my name is Sam. I am the manager of the Heavenly Hustlers, who actually just fell to 8-4 on some bullshit. .06 loss, was robbed, etc., etc. But we
Yep.
still going for the chip. I
Hell
don't
yeah.
see us losing another game. So
Sam looking to be the only repeat champion of our league in our 4 years. I'm Paxton, formerly known as the I forgot what my name used to be.
your name now Perish or something like
Yeah,
that.
okay, formerly known as the Thank You Now Perish team. Currently, I have transitioned to I searched to God after a losing streak, and He smiled upon me, as is my team name. God will smile upon me. 7-4-1. The other recipient of the tie, Jack mentioned a minute ago, in an insane week of games.
Shout out Kenyon Drake.
Second place in the East. So today we're going to load up some topics and discuss kind of our fantasy league, the microcosm that it is, and maybe some players we like, and just some layman's thoughts on fantasy football as a whole. So to start off today, I wanted to talk about kind of just like how this began, where we're at, and like how different now this fantasy league is from when we started. So essentially what I mean is we all started as people who aren't really into football, right?
Mhm.
And now a group of a bunch of weird nerds just became into football, and that's how we have the fantasy
Basically.
football league now.
I think Randy was kind of the only at the beginning was the only one had like really played fantasy football
Yeah,
to a serious extent before,
for sure.
and kind of won the first season just like being the only one who like actually worked the waivers.
I think I
First
drafted
season we
Odell
only had
Beckham
8
Jr.
people.
in the second round the first
Yeah,
year
yeah. I mean, it was a wild year.
when he was on the Browns.
I hardly
Yeah.
remember much from that first year because like
No, not at all.
No,
there were no
remember most of it.
trades.
I think
Only
like
Randy was working the waivers.
I think like Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, and like another incredible running back were all on the same team at some point.
Yeah. And I think he had Nick Chubb too, or something
Yeah.
like that. Oh no, that was Drew. That was Drew. Drew had like
Yeah.
Drew's auto-drafted team almost won the championship,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
So-
Randy was able to win it just barely.
So essentially, how our league works, sort of the makeup of it is, we have, I think, like a nucleus of 5 or 6 of us that watch most of the games, pay a lot of attention to fantasy, probably do a little bit of outside research as well. Then we have like 3 or 4 people who tune in for a game if we're all watching it together and look at like ESPN projections and like pay attention and set their lineups based on the optimal projections. And then we have like 2 or 3 people that
Who just completely
don't know
phone it in.
anything, don't know
Don't-
anything
don't know
about
shit,
football.
Just completely troll.
And
They're all doing better than, well, not all of them actually.
and we have a revolving door, much like the Colts quarterbacks, of one new
Yep.
person a year, because someone always trolls and doesn't care.
That's cutthroat.
And then we
Yep.
have to kick them out.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, someone else doesn't care. So we have an interesting, definitely a nucleus of like 8 people that are pretty serious about it.
Yeah.
Mainly because we all like making our friends feel bad about each other because of fantasy
Yeah,
football.
that's the best thing. The best feeling isn't even winning. It's just knowing that someone else is losing when you're winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like
Yeah.
how I feel in my life.
I mean, we like of course we're just in the group chat, we're talking shit about nothing all the time, but like this really gives us a new avenue to talk shit, like with some
100%.
Oh, yeah.
substance behind it. So any reason to talk shit, that's our group just eats that up. So
Yep.
that's
Yep.
basically the hallmark of this league
Of
is the
this
shit
league,
talk.
yeah. So what are some interesting? I was wanting to like let's take a second and let's sort of write down our lore here of our league, right? Like what is the story of this league? I know we have a few traditions kind of woven into the tapestry here. One being yours truly, Jack, had a fun tradition he started a few years back. Jack, do you want to enlighten people on what that exactly is and what people who face you stand to risk when they go up against the Stylers?
Well, so I've been the Young Money Gangnam Stylers for 4 years in a row. This is the 4th year in a row. This is the first time I've ever changed my name because this has been my worst season. Not.
Hey, still in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, no, the first season was really bad because I didn't know what I was doing. But the second 2 seasons were a lot better, and this season's been a complete shit show. So now I'm the Punish Stylers, but the Young Money Gangnam Stylers, we have a tradition, where we grew up, where we play, that, whenever I would beat somebody, I would send them a video of me Gangnam styling to them. That sounds a lot. It's not as fun when you say that out loud, actually.
I mean, people truly fear the Gangnam Stylers, and the reason they fear the Gangnam Stylers is because they know that if they were to lose by 0.01 points, 10 points, 20 points, 100 points, it doesn't matter. When they wake up next morning, only one thing awaits them.
There's a styling awaiting them.
Awaiting them.
There's
a
only
video of Jack in his stained sweatpants.
Yep.
Going hard.
My football watching sweatpants.
Going hard.
Exactly. Those are my football clothes.
I think I have to check this, but I think the only person since I beat Adam that I think it's only Judge is left unstyled. Maybe Jacob.
There is a single unstyled, unstained individual in our league.
Out of 4 years. Yep. There's one left.
And
guess who I face my last game of the season?
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
That's a storyline.
It's a storyline, yeah.
The narrative game, yeah. Wow. So then we have another risk that was taken. So speaking of Judge, another player manager in our league, the first year he was in the league, he had a great tradition where if you were to lose to him, you may wake up the next morning with a photograph in your inbox of his nuts. And unfortunately, that was his tradition. He chose to do. And as a recipient of a nut photo, I can say that it really adds insult to injury.
Fucking hairy.
Upon losing, yeah.
So hairy.
It's like an
egg. I mean, those Italians, you just.
But yeah, that was
exactly.
That was when he was CD's nuts.
Yep.
He had CeeDee Lamb that one year.
Yep.
The cornerstone of his team was CeeDee Lamb. So suffice to say, he didn't send a lot of nut photos that year.
Yeah. So, as far as other lore of our team, we had a great gentleman named Bo who was in our league for a while. What was his team name again?
He was Baby Brain Scoggins.
Yeah, Baby Brain Scoggins. Yeah.
There was one night I remember so specifically because he hardly ever paid attention. He would draft players that were good in like 2014. Like his team was made up of maybe a good fantasy football team, whenever Barack Obama was the president, right?
Right.
But there was one night, I think he was like 1-12, but he had pulled a huge upset. I can't remember the specifics, but all he sent in our group chat the next day was a lowercase W. And that was the first message he had sent in maybe 5 months.
Yep.
And it was just a lowercase W. And I always respected him for that. And honestly, probably would have rather had him than Eddie this year. I'll say it,
Well, I think the thing is that like the curse of the Scoogie sort of like it like manifests at like whoever's on the bottom. I think that our league is a bit cursed, and like no matter who we bring in, like one person is always just gonna like essentially give up week 3. And then, you have to remind him like every week, like, hey, by the way, you're fucking not even like an injury.
Much like Plato's allegory of the cave. They don't respond to any messages. You really don't know what's going on in their brain. You know they see your messages because sometimes they'll mess with stuff on their team, like what you yelled at them to do.
Yeah.
But they won't respond to you. They won't actually send messages, so it becomes very difficult.
Is there a player whose last name rhymes with cave? We could do allegory of the something. Let's think on that. That'd be a good team name. Yeah, another lore of our league is that we have a beloved friend named Austin, and Austin I'll forgive him even though he's a Packers fan. No offense to Sam, but he really likes football, watches a lot of football, knows a lot of football, actually listens to like fantasy football podcasts even, which is more than 90% of the league. And this poor guy has just never had a winning record once, I don't think.
Has he been to playoffs a single time?
I don't think he has.
I don't think he's made the playoffs. And not only has he not made the playoffs, his teams have been like downright terrible
like,
for the most part.
And it's usually like we think they're going to be good every year when he drafts because he
drafts even after the first game, usually it's like, oh my god, this is Austin's year. It's finally his year, and yet the Reaper comes for his team.
Let's see. Currently, my man's is sitting at what is it, 2-8, I believe. Yeah, 2-8 for old Austin.
He is last place in the division.
And I want everyone to know that he puts in a lot of, not as much now, which you can't blame him. He still sets the lineup, but first 5-6 weeks of the season, he's trying. He's really trying.
He's working the waivers. He's crafting trades, but it just I've never seen a trade bend right for him.
No.
Something.
No, it was
whether it's like the production of the players he's getting dropped off, or injuries, or whatever. No matter what he does, if he makes a trade, he will end up on the wrong side of it. And when I say the wrong side of it, I don't mean like his production's down by like a few points per week. No, the trade will ruin his team permanently.
Oh yeah, like season-altering, just like unfixable holes left in his team.
And then he goes fishing, and that's also a nice piece of lore from our league is that whenever Austin hits that part of the season, which he always does, that he knows he's dead. His avatar and his team just they go for a fish, and they spend the rest of the season fishing. So hey. Kudos to Austin, appreciate him. He'll be back next year and the year after that. Probably back in the same spot.
To get his ass whooped by me once again.
But the one year he wins, I feel like no one will be upset, I feel like we'll all be happy for him. Unless he beats me, of course, which in that case, it'll be all right.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Yeah, unless he beats me at all, and then I'm going to be pissed and say it's all luck.
So another part of our team, of our league, as interesting. So I don't know if y'all know this. I was doing some analytics. By analytics, I mean I was remembering things. And what I remember from 2 years ago is that when we first had the league, so for everyone listening, no one, but when we first had the league in 2020, whenever it extended from 8 people to 12 people, when we really started taking it seriously, the reason why I think we all got into it is because COVID was kind of going strong that year. It was the COVID year for the NFL.
Right.
It was also, I think, corresponded with the year NFL offenses took off. Like they went crazy that year because there was no more home field advantage, right? So people could hear the snap counts, they could hear audibles. So we would all just spend in our COVID caves, right? Quarantined, semi-quarantined. We would just be watching football together, right?
Yep.
And that year we had a fuck ton of trades, right? I remember that one I will always remember, and Sam got me back because he won that year. But he traded Julian Edelman for James Robinson at like week 2.
Yeah, I gave up James Robinson, who I'd got from waivers, for Julian Edelman. And the previous week, Julian Edelman had scored like 22 points.
Yeah,
I needed more wide receiver depth, and I thought James Robinson. I was like, he's on the Jaguars. It's Julian Edelman's been good for so many years. I gotta do this. War so bad.
He
Such
got injured and
trade.
like retired, like
almost immediately. Like I don't think he had a single productive game on my team.
Yeah.
I think one time I started him, he dropped like 4 points, got hurt, and left.
Yep, the classic. So
meanwhile, James Robinson had arguably the greatest unsigned, undrafted free agent rookie season of all time.
And now James Robinson is a healthy scratch for the Jets. So you see how that goes. That's
wild. James Robinson is one of the weirdest stories in the NFL.
Yep, what the Dameon Pierce trajectory. But that being said, that year was fun because we all watched a lot. There were a lot of trades. Jack, I don't know, or Sam, if you remember any other. I know that all I know is these 2 trades. They were mine. The trade I made with Sam, and then the one that really changed the season for me was I was like I think like 4 and I was thinking like 3-4 or like 2-4 or something. and my roommate Zach, who I love to death, they didn't know a lot of football. They know football now, but they didn't know a lot about football back then. So I kind of fleeced. Oh no, I remember I fleeced Drew, and I got Kyler Murray for like 2 no-name players, and then I traded James Robinson to Zach for Stephon Diggs, and that was my team I had for the playoff run. And that year, Sam and I were on basically like a collision course, like a fated collision course for the playoffs. And it was pretty epic because in the finals, it was the Christmas game where
it was the Alvin Kamara.
Alvin and Dalvin were going, like, basically Sam and I's match in the grand finals came down to who would score more points, essentially Dalvin Cook or Alvin Kamara. And that was the Alvin Kamara 5-touchdown game.
He got fined for his cleats. Didn't matter. Swagged out.
Dude.
Dropped
I
it was like
that,
we were talking like 55 fantasy points. Something like that. It was in the 50s for sure.
Yep.
Oh my god! Yeah.
I had also picked up Jeff Wilson from waivers, who dropped 30 randomly that week, but it didn't even matter because the 50 points from Alvin Kamara was enough to sink anyone.
Look how bad my fucking so the team I ended with. I finished 8 out of 8, went 4-9.
Oh shit!
In an 8-man fucking league, I had Kirk Cousins, Latavius Murray, Jalen Samuels, D-Hop, Mike Evans, Zach Ertz, Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell. Okay.
That was the Jets. That was the Jets. Le'Veon Bell. If you remember.
Yeah. People was like.
And then $30 kicker Joey Sly as well, with the fucking Jaguars defense.
Sheesh, that's
wow. Oh my god, I was benching. Okay. I just realized how fucking legacy my team is. So my first year, I had Mike Evans and Christian Kirk, who I had.
Oh my god.
Who I have this year. I had fucking AP on my team. What
dude, with the Lions, when he was with the Lions, or was that Seahawks?
No, this was before.
Washington. It was like
it
was like old washed up AP, like shambling back.
That's crazy.
This is a weird team to look back on.
That was the year Kansas City won the Super Bowl. Was that first year we played fantasy. I remember because that's kind of what was like, oh, I think I'm going to be into football. Because thankfully the first year I got into football, my team, my family likes won the Super Bowl. And I was like, wait, this is fun.
Well, it was awesome. Wait a minute.
This is actually awesome.
God, has been a football fan for like 4 or 5 years and has been a Chiefs fan the whole time.
Yeah.
It's a privilege.
What it must be like. What it must be like.
So yeah, we've been together a long time, and so basically after that year, people, and this is like, obviously fantasy football is like 85-90% luck, right? But people were like, oh, Paxton and Sam, they're the best players. Like they need to be seated this high. Like people were kind of like talking like Sam and I like knew our shit. And I think, Sam and I probably are the 2 people that do the most research outside of the league. But
yeah, probably.
At the end of the day, like neither of us
at the end
of
the day,
playoffs
that
the next year.
Matter. That does not matter.
Not at all.
Well, we actually have the most prolific curse in our league is that anyone who makes the finals.
Yep.
One year will fail to even make the playoffs the following year.
That's the classic move, yeah.
But this year that is set to be broken with Jacob being in the finals, now making the playoffs.
So the story of Jacob is basically a story of analytics, right? Because this guy, smart guy, right? Sharp as a tack, but he doesn't like do a lot of football research. He watches football, doesn't know a lot about it, but he drafts like at consensus ADP every year, right?
Yeah.
And that's how he structures his team.
He looks at several different rankings, but all he's doing is looking at different guys' rankings.
Exactly. Yeah. He's not reading about like matchups or injuries or any of that.
No,
it's just,
never.
He's not like doing any, like he doesn't have a drafting strategy like a 0 RB or like go heavy on running back. He doesn't do that. He's getting best player available. I mean, I'm sure that if he doesn't have a tight end at some point, he'll go for a tight end. He's not stupid, but he's basically going best player available per these rankings every time.
Yeah. And looks like we have someone join us
Hi, I'm sorry.
Nice to join us, Randy.
I just got home from my errand trip. I'm sorry, guys.
It's okay.
Yeah,
We're just.
You ruined it.
This is the privilege you get when you're going into the playoffs as the 1 seed, I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
We're just chronicling kind of the history of our league and kind of some storylines. So I mean, you're fine. We were just talking about how our teams are structured and how Jacob's team is kind of constructed all around like ADP and not like any sort of strategy, and how we all, I want to say. Just real quick, let me go to Jacob's team. We all clowned Jacob for having, what was it, 3 Browns players, right, at the end of the draft.
Yeah.
And he had Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt. Now, Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb are literally top 10 players at their positions now, which is insane.
Yeah. Well, Nick Chubb, through the first like half of the season, was like number 2 or like number 3-ish.
Yep.
I mean,
and then now
dude has
Jacob,
had his best year for sure.
And now Jacob
I think he's the best pure runner.
Oh,
yeah, for sure.
Agreed.
Like, definitely, honestly, the Browns have the best pure running scheme in the NFL with their, not scheme, but like their talent at O-line plus their talent at RB together.
Yeah, for sure.
I think obviously San Francisco, rivals them in that regard, but
and like Miami and that whole type of offense.
But before they got Christian McCaffrey, I think they were sort of the consensus best run game team.
Yeah.
And Nick Chubb in the past, like, he's always good, but it's like he doesn't catch passes, right? So,
he's never been a ceiling player. He's always like a really, really, really strong floor. But this year he's just a beast. And also
he just scores enough touchdowns and rushes for 100 yards every game that it's just fine.
I'll be honest, I would never have guessed Amari Cooper would be doing as well as he did. And as someone who was on the receiving end of an Amari Cooper 30 bomb, I can say how angry I am about it.
Not only has he been doing that good, he's been doing that good catching the ball from Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
And he's like better this year than he ever was with Dak.
Hold on. So now Jacoby Brissett, I just want to point out that I lost to a team that started Jacoby Brissett over Lamar Jackson. That's sort of the the caliber of player I just lost to. And
not only a playoff team right now, bro.
And I'm a playoff team, which is crazy. Thankfully, Trey lost. And I'm gonna go against Drew next week, and I'm gonna make that lucky bastard give him one more win because my entire team's gonna bust out again.
Yeah, Drew's team, you look at the team and you're like, wow, this team is just trash. Half his team is injured.
Let's talk about it. What kind of players does he have?
He doesn't know about the IR slot that we have on the bench.
He probably doesn't know what IR stands for.
No, he definitely does not.
Drew is starting right now in his wide receiver. I want everyone to know real quick before I say this. I have the highest points fielded in the league by 1,700 even. Drew and I have the same amount of wins, and he has 1,200. And so that's how that's going. And he's currently starting Mac Hollins and DeAndre Carter as his starting wide receivers. And do you know who he's flexing? A man by the name of Chris Moore from the Houston Texans.
Anyone who ever watches this, which will be no one, but if anyone who ever watches this instantly knows what team Chris Moore is on, you get a gold star because I fucking doubt that anybody knows who the fuck Chris Moore is.
No, you said Chris Moore, and I was like, who the fuck is Chris Moore?
Chris Moore is the president of your local Alpha Delta Kappa fraternity, as who Chris Moore is. And Drew, it has 6 wins. I mean, you can't fault. You know what I mean?
Let me explain to you guys who Chris Moore is exactly. Because I know you guys know he's a no-name receiver, but I don't know if you realize just how much of a no-name he is. So, Chris Moore is actually what he's doing is he is a backup player who is filling in for John Mechie because John Mechie was out with like an illness or something like that.
He has like he has cancer.
As if we don't.
Oh, he has cancer. I forgot that was that guy.
I think he's currently like in remission, but he couldn't play this year because he was like going through chemo and shit. Which shout out that guy. I'm sure hopefully he's gonna be.
So
okay.
he has that slot receiver job on the Houston Texans, which makes him like approximately, I think, maybe the wide receiver 3 at best on his team. Maybe not even, honestly.
Well, they have Cooks, Collins, and him.
Like, I just can't understand what Drew did to get this guy.
Chris Moore.
How did this guy catch his eye? I'm like trying to figure it out.
He's rostered in 0.7%.
Chris Moore rostered in 0.7% of ESPN fantasy leagues, and he managed to pull off a dub last week.
0.7%.
This guy.
Dude,
This guy is
so,
the wide receiver
Oh
75.
my
pivoting here to people who we didn't know would score points. Now that Randy's here, I want to bring something up.
What's up, guys?
Is Josh Jacobs, was he the most slept on running back in this entire year, this draft?
He must be the most slept on player total.
Yeah.
Steal of the year.
I think
definitely steal of the year.
It's okay to say he's the. What do you get him in? Round
Okay,
7?
hold on.
Round 8?
I think if Justin
like
Fields comes back this week and performs anything like he has been, I think he has.
Oh, that's
he's
actually
contending
true.
for.
The thing about Justin Fields though is that he's only had this production down the stretch, whereas Josh Jacobs has been more or less pretty consistent all year.
He's the overall RB1, right? In
yeah,
PPR?
he's literally the overall RB1.
He's 2.
He like started off mid the first 2 weeks, and then we were all like, "Oh, that's about Josh Jacobs. 8.3, 9.1 sounds like Josh Jacobs."
I kind of gotten to, like pretty much this whole year have just gotten to watch all of my players just slowly. Actually, the last like 3 weeks, I've kind of watched them all just like slowly decrease on the like top charts for their position.
Yep.
Like Tyreek Hill is now position 3. Mike Evans is 20. Mark Andrews is, well, I guess he can't compete with Travis Kelce. What the fuck is going on with Mark Andrews, by the way? Like what is
that
happening?
Game they played?
I think
he dropped 2 passes in the end zone.
The Ravens are just an entire scam.
Yeah, I
can't
I
predict
don't think I can ever
on the Ravens.
watch. Okay, here. Mark Andrews bailed me out of a couple games, but he is so fucking up and down. And I get he's like still tight end 2, but I just can't watch. I don't know. I feel like earlier in the season, I was looking very like the future's looking very bright. But God, the last couple I've watched, even without his injuries, like just drop passes and like they're throwing to like secondary tight ends and like third string tight end. It's like, what happened to this guy?
Yeah, that is an interesting case study for sure.
I cannot watch Ravens games anymore with this guy on my team.
Sorry. So moving on to here. So let's talk about this then. Randy, we kind of talked about the history of the last few years and how I wanted to bring up how last year we had no trades at all. I think last year was kind of like
was so boring.
It was I don't know. I think it was just
last year was fucking awesome.
Oh,
no, fuck y'all. No, last year's the year I got. No, last year was my pop off year. I had fucking Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris, and Cooper Kupp on the same team.
I think Najee Harris was definitely and Cooper Kupp were like really carrying your team.
Oh, for sure.
But those 2 players were amazing. Like Najee Harris was probably like around 5 RB last year.
RB 6 or 7.
6 or 7. Yeah.
I will say that this year we've been a lot more active. So I wanted to ask you guys. Do you think that there has been a trade so far? I guess you think the trade with Randy that kind of altered the season at all? I feel like Randy started 0-2 and has not lost since, which is kind of unbelievable.
I think there have been a couple. I think that I was expecting you and Zach's trade to be more impactful than it was.
I have before this week I had lost 2 in a row and tied you after that trade. So that was bad.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a little worse.
Let me talk about that. Can I talk about that? Let me talk about that for a second. So this was my Icarus moment. I want everyone to know I pride myself on being a very knowledgeable football guy, and there's no accolade comes with that, and it doesn't matter at all in my life, and gives me nothing of value. It's just the one thing I have when I look into this hopeless world, right, is that I know the third string running back on any given football team, right? But that being said, sometimes I think I outsmart myself, and this was a situation where I was looking at my team, okay, and I had, by the first 6 weeks of the season, I had the best team in the league by far. I had scored 180 plus points 3 times, and no one had even scored that once, I don't think, up until Randy did it last week. So
Judge.
He popped 180 as well.
Might have had one, something like that. Yeah.
So I basically looked at my team and I said, okay, everything's great, but I have AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, and then I had Amon-Ra St. Brown was like my nucleus of wide receivers, and I was like, what if I had the wide receiver 1, 2, and 5, which was Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, and AJ Brown at the time. And I was like, Amon-Ra's on the Lions. Maybe he's not going to continue this production. Jamison Williams is coming back. I figured that like he would have regression. So I put him together with George Kittle because I had Gerald Everett, who at the time was a very startable tight end. Not so much anymore. And I put together George Kittle, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Saquon Barkley, who, by the way, has not been that good since I traded him.
He definitely.
Yeah, he's been your best trade away.
Yeah, and so he was like a 20 average player. Now he's like a 13 average player. And so I traded him, Saquon, George Kittle, and then like a no-name like running back from my bench to Zach, and I got back Justin Jefferson and Kyle Pitts, which I had two wrong. I had two wrong estimations there. One was Kyle Pitts was going to regress to the mean and start scoring a lot more, and Saquon Amon-Ra St. Brown was going to regress to the mean and score less. Now I was wrong wildly on both of those players, and now Kyle Pitts is out for the season anyways, and so my team is now still good, but I think I fucked up a golden opportunity. However, I will say I don't know if my team would. I think my team is still better than it would have been if the Cooper Kupp injury still happens, is what I will say. Because I literally just had, no Cooper Kupp, here's Justin Jefferson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was I definitely at the time
What's the current word on Cooper Kupp, by the way? Is he
He's
have a chance
probably
of
out for
back?
the season unless he comes back the final week. But I mean,
which doesn't make any sense, right?
There's no way the Rams are going to be like, we gotta get Cooper Kupp back in for the last game. We gotta.
They're
rush
like
this.
the most disastrous team. Even worse than the Packers somehow.
It is the worst. Like in my time watching football, it's the worst like Super Bowl hangover I've ever seen. Which I know like
it's probably the worst ever.
So bad. Well, they're so ass, and I love Stafford as everybody knows. Tier knows, but like he looks so bad. He just looks so shit.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Rams did this thing where they went all in with older veterans, and now they can't pay them all, so they left, and they have no young good players, and they have no draft
OBJ
picks.
and Von Miller on like a half-year contract.
Yep. And then they had like a wild. This happened with the Bengals too. The Bengals won like there's a bunch of stats in football, right? Like big plays are kind of like a stat that you can't predict, right? And the Bengals just had the craziest run of luck with big plays with Jamar Chase the last like 7 games of the season on their Super Bowl run. And so I don't know, football's crazy. But back to our league here. I have a couple of topics now that we've kind of addressed the foundation of everything that I wanted to get y'all's takes on, right? So number one is, what do you think has been the biggest surprise this year in fantasy? This can be like a player. This can be like the lack of a player. This can be like the amount of injuries. Like what do you think? Like
we talked about this a lot already. I thought Randy's team was like completely like dead in the water. Like
after the
like
first 2
like
weeks.
no chance of winning. I was like, this guy. Like we were joking like, oh my god, this guy's team is like just shot.
Yep.
Like what the fuck happened?
We thought he was like
10 in a
potentially
row.
the worst team after the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. I think the turnaround has been so crazy, and like obviously it's like looking back, like hindsight's 2020 is like, well, only the first it was like after 3 weeks, I was like, oh my god, like Randy's just done. But I feel like when we talked earlier about like no trades working out for Austin, I feel like Randy, like Austin historically, trades and waiver pickups just like usually do not work for Austin very well. I think Randy got some good waiver pickups. You have one of the highest, I think, like player move. Yeah.
And you still have Fab left. I don't understand how I have no money left, and I feel like I only got like 3 players. I
haven't picked up anyone.
$30 on Carson Wentz.
I haven't spent any money in like the past like 3 weeks.
Okay, so you think Randy's team ascending, Jack? That's your biggest surprise. I like
it.
Randy, what about you?
To go off with
Jack,
you can
respond
even with
to
the Stephon Diggs trade, I think my team would have been perfectly fine with T. Higgins.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's been so good.
Well,
since
there was another
Jamar's
player
out,
you did, right? Who was it?
It was T. Higgins, Jamal Williams, and Tyler Conklin at the time.
Yeah, so if you had T. Higgins, Jamal Williams, you would be fine.
Yeah, you'd be totally fine. Well, you had
Jamal
Tyler
Williams is so
Conklin.
money.
I don't know. He's on my team randomly now. So
Yeah, at the time,
just...
Tyler Conklin, we were all like, "Holy shit!" Like,
yeah,
this guy could be like,
I might start him over Gerald Everett, low key.
Zach Wilson,
How did he do first game with Mike the White Knight?
5 points, but he had targets. He had the targets. He had a good amount of targets.
Okay.
All right. So Randy, what do you think? Biggest surprise this year? What would you say if you can think of one?
I think going back to earlier, I think Josh Jacobs.
Yeah,
has literally been like.
Yeah, as a player, Josh Jacobs.
Like he's literally projected 24 points.
Yeah,
this
for the first time, he's projected over Austin Eckler. I'm like, holy shit! Like,
wow.
Yeah.
Which player do you guys think is the biggest bust?
Okay, well, I have a question. We can get to it. It's biggest bum award.
Okay.
So I guess bum and bust are different. Like, we can just combine it. So bum, bust, whatever. What player do you guys think takes that? I'm thinking a little bit.
Okay, well, let me
Najee
start.
Harris, maybe.
Here's the thing:
maybe
is
not a
Najee
bum.
Harris is still playing every week and putting up points.
Yeah.
Let me first. I want to give an award to all-time biggest bum over like the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give it to none other than Michael Thomas.
Oh,
No, I agree.
That man. There's a difference between having bad production and just refusing to step on the football field.
Yeah.
This dude, ever since he got that contract, has not done anything.
I mean,
He plays like a couple
fleecing.
games, does decent, makes you think that he's decent, and then he's gone.
His
Then back to
last
the bummery.
crazy year was our first fantasy year.
First
Yep.
fantasy year, yeah.
Yep. And then he went top 5 in the draft. Poor.
Yeah.
poor guy.
Like two
It
years
was Austin.
consecutive.
It was
on the
Austin.
To me.
Austin
No,
picked him up.
I think it was me.
Oh, it was you?
I think,
Okay, yeah.
I think I picked up.
No,
Michael
you
Thomas.
traded Austin.
Oh yeah, I think that's what it was.
It was like Raheem Mostert was in, and they both got injured.
Yeah.
Yep.
some
Okay,
shit
so
like that,
Michael
yeah.
Thomas is definitely up there with biggest bum. I think I would have said JT until the last couple weeks where he's been doing well for this year. I think he's made up for it in the last few weeks.
We'll see if he does good in the playoffs, then he'll be, defendable.
In terms of being a bum in the past few years, I think Zeke might be up there. I feel like
Yeah.
Zeke's kind of lost it a little bit. Of course, he had his fucking career game against me. But
it's with Ohio State players. You can't trust them. I'm telling you.
It's facts.
Yeah.
Jack is
Hey,
a
by the way,
resident Michigan.
the Ohio State losing second time in a row to Michigan.
Yep. they got fucking embarrassed. Two
It was
two
embarrassing.
breakaway 80-yard touchdowns almost back to back.
Yeah. That's would suck to be
It's
from Ohio.
it's
I'll tell you that
great.
much.
It's great to see. Great to see.
All right, Jack. What do you think if you had to pick a biggest bum of the year?
Okay,
If
this
you have
one
anything off the top, it doesn't have to be super well.
for personally.
Yeah, sure. Personally.
I think for me it's got to be Naheem Hines. That guy, I can call him bust because it's not like there was. I don't know. I was pretty excited when he got. I'm mostly saying that because I was excited. I was hoping that he would make a name for himself in Buffalo, and he might still
get the pass catching role or something.
Yeah,
but he didn't get nothing.
I watched a fucking Pat. I was like, this sucks. And I watched a fucking Pat McAfee video, and of course he's so he loves Naheem Hines. He's like, this guy's fucking incredible. Like he's gonna go over there. He's gonna fit. He's gonna mesh so well with that offense. Like that motherfucker might as well be on the practice squad. They do not use him at all. Like he's behind fucking Zach Moss, which is wait.
Okay.
Was it? Who did they trade for him?
They traded Zach Moss to
Yeah,
the
it was
Colts.
Zach Moss. I think he's their third string, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I have three players this year I think have been huge bums. Number 1, Allen Robinson.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that guy up.
Yep. And Randy has him sitting on his bench out for the season now that it matters.
Yeah, well, he blew his thing out.
Yeah, he's done.
He blew his thingy off. And then I have Elijah Moore, bum number 2. I know it hasn't been fully his fault, but
that
he
guy
has not put up
so
any
bad.
fantasy points except this last
no
week.
production at all.
Yep,
Really,
and people were like, he's gonna be the biggest breakout of the year.
Yeah.
And then number 3, Javonte Williams.
I was
RIP
gonna
to
say
Adam.
Javonte Williams. Yeah, I mean, like
I know he got hurt, but
he sucked and he was like awful, and then got injured, and
as
then
a
it was like,
second
all right,
round,
bye-bye.
spending a second round pick on him is brutal.
I think DeAndre Swift has been.
I mean,
too.
hey, no, I mean, bum of the year. Okay, obviously Jonathan Taylor is coming back, but from Adam's perspective, like it's so too little, too late for Adam's team. Like, I mean, as we all know, like Adam's first 2 picks were Jonathan Taylor then Javonte Williams, and Jonathan Taylor essentially did nothing the entire effective season for Adam. Like he only started doing anything when Adam was like essentially mathematically eliminated.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, now I'll drop like 20, which is like going into it. Like there were people talking about like maybe he can't keep this up, but like I mean for fuck's sake, like, I think even people that were like bearish on him were expecting like a 13 point floor on the guy. I mean he was just putting down like nothing.
Okay, so that actually pivots me to my next topic I wanted to say, and this one, who do you guys think has been impacted the most by injuries on their team, and who do you think, like if injuries didn't exist this year, take like injuries before the season out of it, like if injuries had not happened this year at all, how do you think the league would be different right now? Do you think someone else would be in the lead, like someone else would be not doing as well? Like how do y'all think that would have affected it?
I think Adam's team would be a lot better.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, Adam of course had Javonte Williams.
Yeah.
Who went out for the season.
JT as well, who was out for a while.
Not only that, but JT, who was out for several weeks, and then was also just like had some weeks where he was started, but like wasn't like he clearly wasn't, back to his form.
I think Chris Olave was out with a couple concussion weeks too, when he was doing well. And then I'm looking at his team right now. Yeah, James Robinson just got fully benched. Jarvis Landry did really well actually the first week of the season, and then went out for like 6 weeks. Adam for sure. I think Austin. I think Austin. If you remember, he had Breece Hall before he got hurt. When Breece Hall was
was Austin had Breece Hall.
That's what I mean. I think Austin is another contender for that too. Because Austin had Breece Hall before he got hurt.
He was definitely his best player at the time. And DeAndre Swift.
He's basically he got hurt. He got hurt initially.
T. Higgins has been hurt.
T. Higgins too.
Time.
Yeah. So, might look different with that.
Now he loses Darnell Mooney, who wasn't that good to begin with, and then.
There's no Chase Claypool, I'll tell you that much.
Apparently not.
So, is Randy the luckiest player in the league then? Could we have that discussion? I feel like we can. What say you, Randy?
What do you mean by luckiest?
I'm saying...
I still think it's Drew. With the amount of wins he has right now and his team,
it depends what you consider as luck, but like in terms of like your team being fraudulent and still winning, it's definitely true.
Yeah.
The dude is at 7-5 with just
he's at 7-5 now. That's so.
He's at 7-5, and I would say he has a bottom
third
14.
in y'all's division.
Dude,
he's 7-5, and he might beat Jack and go to 8-5.
Yeah. I think he's going to.
Pax,
if Justin Fields doesn't come back, he's probably going to 8-5.
Dude, I have scored 500 more fantasy points than him. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
It's the same amount of wins.
I'm against Pax this week. Holy shit.
Dude, yeah, I was gonna say you and I was gonna get to this at the end, so I'll save it. But about what we're looking forward to. But all right, okay. Well, next topic I have, we're kind of approaching a little bit of an hour, and I want to get to something at the end, so I'll give one more topic we can talk about. In y'all's opinion, we've been doing this, kind of really paying attention to it for 3 years now. A lot of the fantasy and analysts that I listen to have talked about how for a long time, quarterback was something people punted on to like round 7 because all quarterbacks gave pretty similar production, right? Kind of like that 18 to 22 point range. But a lot of people these days are saying quarterback is one of those positions you want to reach for because
I will next year. I'm comfortable saying that. I'm reaching for it next year
because the top 3 or 4 guys are difference makers. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, etc. And so I wanted to ask y'all, what do you think, at least in your head, or maybe in a macro sense for fantasy, for our league, maybe not macro then, in our league, what position group do you think has the most value right now? If you were
running
to be
back,
like, I want this group.
I think running back still has the most value. I don't know. I feel like
the scare of like good running backs is
and that's
okay,
why Randy's lucky, motherfucker.
Let's look at the top teams in the league right now.
All right.
You're gonna see Randy's team, has the best running back core.
1 and 2.
Yeah, has the best
two.
running back core in the league and is the top team. Who else is the top team?
Jacob, Nick
Zach's
Chubb,
team,
Dalvin Cook.
Saquon and Christian McCaffrey,
Yep.
and David Montgomery and Latavius Murray.
Wow.
All startable running backs.
Yep.
Some of them really good. My team is good. Ramondre Stevenson and Joe Mixon / Samaje Perine when he's out. Very solid core.
Jacob, Dalvin, and Nick.
And now let's look at some not teams in the league. And you're gonna have Austin's team, who ETN's been better, but meh. And then like Swift / Jamal Williams are not reliable.
I think Jamal Williams.
You look at Adam's team, who has only has one startable running back now in Jonathan Taylor, and who's been injured for most of the year.
Yeah.
It's just like the running backs. There's not enough for everyone to have decent.
What do you mean?
Backs.
No.
My guy Drew is starting an injured Michael Carter and Antonio Gibson.
Nobody tell him, by the way.
Yeah, no, I think I think for sure. I would say I think this isn't a position that's the most valuable, but I think Travis Kelce makes himself the most valuable player in all of fantasy, because do you all know the difference between the tight end 1, which is Travis Kelce, points per game, PPR is 21.5. Do you want to know what Mark Andrews' points per game is, number 2?
I'm guessing. I'm gonna guess like
14. It is an almost 10-point difference.
Yep.
In the tight end 1 and 2 have the same difference as the tight end 2 and like 25. It's absurd. How much people have been talking about, like, why is Travis Kelce not the 101 every year? Because of how much of an edge that gives you. You know what I mean?
Well, last year he wasn't the tight end 1.
Yeah, last year
Here's
was
the thing about Travis Kelce. It's that if he ever has like a down year, the stocks are going to go so far down on him because he's old and people are going to be like, oh, he's washed.
Yeah.
What if he's washed? You have to bake in the risk that he just had his last good year.
Yeah. But he's talked about like retiring soon, correct?
No, he has 3 years left on his contract.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. His brother has.
Kelsey's total fantasy points this year is 238. Tight end 2, Mark Andrews has 144.
Jesus. Right. I mean, we all know we've all been scrounging all year for a startable tight end, and no one has found one other than maybe Jack. It was supposed to be Kyle Pitts. What happened?
I got TJ.
Pat Freiermuth has been decent, honestly.
Yeah, Freiermuth and
Dawson Knox has been crazy. You know that Dawson Knox.
Dawson Knox is so bad. Wait. Someone who this person has fallen off harder than any other player this year. Tyler Higbee. But now nobody and look. How many points do you think Tyler Higbee scored this week?
4,
1.
5.
Okay, that's a guess. 4 or 5. What's
1.
your guess, Paxton?
1.
Okay. It's 0. It's 0.0.
Oh my God.
0 targets, 0 catches,
Wow.
0 yards.
I wouldn't touch any player on the Rams with a 12-foot pole in fantasy right now. Not a single player.
No. Honestly, their best player right now is Kyren Williams, and he scored, I think, 9 this week.
Yep.
I thought I scored a little bit by having Allen Robinson when Cooper Kupp went out, but
he's I guess he was just washed when he left Chicago. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is such a fleece." You just guess not. Yeah. Okay, so getting to the end here, I want to ask y'all. So looking forward, we have in our league, we have it set up by division. I was thinking about maybe we could change it next year of just all in one division and just go by the top 6 teams or whatever. But regardless, this year it's set up by division. So you have 6 people in one division, 6 people in the other. We changed it to where instead of the 2 first seeds getting a bye, to make it more fun and people be more invested come fantasy playoff time, because I think a lot of people lose their interest when that happens, which kind of sucks, honestly, for the players in it, because I feel like it's pretty hype. So I'm gonna, by the way, I have a fun little thing planned for the playoffs this year, a little thing in the works. I'll keep it it's a surprise.
Okay.
And so I think that 4 and 4 are making it in. All 4 of us are playoff teams. Jack, by the grace of God, is a playoff team. Thank you, Randy. So currently our projected playoff matchups, which these are definitely going to change, but the same players will definitely be in them. Will be Jack versus Randy, me versus Sam.
Sorry, what I have to do to you, Randy.
Me versus Sam, Drew versus Jacob, and Judge versus Zach. So I wanted to get just each of you can have a minute or two or a couple minutes to talk about how do you see the future going this year, and what are your predictions? You know, if you can be unbiased or be biased, up to you.
I think Randy's gonna win.
Okay.
No cap, not me being cocky or anything.
Yeah.
I think I'm making a clean ass run straight to the playoffs. With
Yeah.
fucking,
I mean,
and finishing the season off with my win streak or whatever.
Does it not scare you that you're on a 10-win streak, that the loss is coming? Because you know it's coming.
No.
You know it's coming.
It is
at some
coming.
point.
I thought it was gonna be against Judge, but apparently
But Josh Jacobs had literally
Josh
the
Jacobs
greatest
is
game of all time.
He had 303 yards.
Props to Judge. His team popped off.
Yep.
His team did well. His team did well. He was like probably like number 2 or 3 scoring this week.
Yeah. Like 147. Like is a really good week.
I feel Judge actually might be most unlucky because he's actually been on the receiving end of that. I think like 4 times.
A lot.
Like the
and he's
second
gonna
highest.
is he really gonna go in seed 8?
He's seeded 7 right now. He'll
Oh, no,
probably
he's gonna get 7. So at least he doesn't have to play Randy at the beginning.
Well, he could leapfrog Drew. I mean, Drew's the one above him, which is so.
Yeah, Drew surpassed him this week.
What I will say about this, so this week we have me and Randy, which I think Randy, if you lose, Jacob has the points fielded over you, right?
Yeah.
So if Randy loses, he'll be second seed, and Jacob will take 1 seed. So
and that'd be so unlucky for Judge.
I think that Randy and I have actually the most impactful game of the week, and if you want to look at it that way,
in terms of seeding,
exactly. Because I am currently 2, but if Zach loses, who does Zach play this week?
Does Zach have more points fielded than Jacob?
Let me check.
I think that they do not. I think that they don't. I'm
looking at.
I want to say.
Zach is against Jacob. That's also huge.
Oh, Zach and Jacob are playing? Okay, so if Zach loses and I win, that means I will... No, never mind. Zach's 2 games up on me. Never mind. But that means Randy will go to the second seed, and I will be 1 game behind Zach.
But I could pass Zach.
Yeah, yes.
Because Zach is 1 game ahead of me, and probably like around like 20 or 30 points ahead of me.
Yeah.
So if I score 20 or 30 points more than them, and they lose the game against Jacob, then I will take a 1 seed spot at least, and I won't have to play Paxton. I could end up playing.
Oh God, I
could end up playing
Randy
Drew with that. So
yeah,
because
I think everybody wants
insane.
the 1 or 2 seed because you want to play Drew or Jack. No offense, but
you want to dodge. You want to dodge Judge. If you're
Zach.
a high seed, like Judge is like the potential high seed killer.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, this is so much fun.
Hey, I dropped a 140 a little bit ago. I mean, I'm not dropping 1 or 2 at that, but
what I've seen is that I think now we've kind of separated like in the league where like I think we're all scoring pretty well, like the people who are good. Like I think we all
scored 80 points this week.
Oh, you did? Okay, never mind. Well, you're also kind of like an outlier.
Yeah.
You're 4 and 7.
I'm sorry, 85.0.
Making that playoff push. Making that playoff push. You're the only one.
Let's go 8th. Let's go 8th.
You're the only one who's not 100% in the playoffs yet. You're 93. Trey could go on a crazy run. So, anyways, okay. Cool. Yeah. My prediction is, I think Randy. Sam said this to me like 4 weeks ago, which is ironic because right after he said that, my team started performing like shit. But Sam was like, if you don't win the league this year, it's fucked up. But I think Randy's taken that mantle because I really think your team is the most well constructed. None of us have the running backs to compete with you.
My most struggles this year was my quarterback.
His quarterback has been so bad. But
if
Deshaun
Watson
is even a ghost of his former self,
he's better than the quarterbacks that I have.
God won't let you win with that quarterback, Randy. He'll smite you down.
Would Randy be the first?
If he loses this year, it's because God struck his team down on a.
Yeah, exactly.
No, actually.
Yeah, you can blame it on that.
Such a funny storyline.
But yeah, so basically the 4 of us are looking for a playoff push. I feel like my team, final thing we can talk about is I wanted to discuss because last year, if you didn't know, Amon-Ra St. Brown was the wide receiver 57. He went on the 8-week stretch where he was the wide receiver 4, right?
Yeah.
And Ramondre, I think, in a similar story, running back ways. So I picked up 2 rookie receivers, Treylon Burks, Christian Watson, a week ago, spent all the rest of my fab on them. And I think if they end up hitting in the same way Amon-Ra did last year, I could be looking at a stretch run as well, but it's definitely a gamble. It's kind of where I'm sitting with my team right now, in my head. So that's where I'm at.
I kind of feel like if the playoffs shake up like this picture here, then my match and your match to kick it off is gonna end up deciding so much with how the tournament goes.
And also, I'd love, honestly, I don't want to play your team first because your team's good, but it would be kind of poetic in a way, you know, like
it is.
Two titans of a past, two relics of a past era duking it out again, you know.
It's like to take it to a Smash comparison, it's like if Mango and Armada are playing in like the early rounds.
Yeah.
Because it's like we've had to fight each other so many times.
Yep.
And it like goes so back and forth, and of course it was for the championship that one year.
And I need.
It was like even last year when we both had trash teams. Whenever we played each other, it was a hype match.
Yeah, and remember when, dude? I'm so mad that Eddie and I used to have such a fun rivalry. He just never even.
He checked out this year.
He
checked out.
All right, so
he won the league last year and checked out.
Drafted Hunter Henry, and it was over.
It's been about an hour. I want all of you. We can end it here. Give a little closing statement about kind of like where you see your team, how you're feeling, anything else you want to say. So we'll start with Sam and go left.
Well, I mean, I've had so much fun getting into this with you guys the past few years. I hope we can do it for many years to come.
Agreed.
And this year, I think might be honestly the most hype year because we have the people who actually care for the most part.
Are all good finally.
Are still in the fighting, like still in it for the championship. And it looks like it's quite likely that we will have, for the first time, a second repeat champion.
Yeah. The curse is broken.
It seems more likely than it has seemed previous years. Yep. So if Randy wins it, or I somehow win it, then we'll have repeat champions. But the people who would be most likely of stopping that are Jacob, and of course you, Paxton. You've made it to second, but haven't gotten a championship yet. And I'm so excited to see how it shakes out. Hopefully with me on top.
So I'll finish off by saying I think what we're going to see at the end of the season here, I think that whichever one of our teams becomes has the least amount of injuries going forward will find the most success. I know that seems kind of simple, but I really do think that, like, Randy's a fucking juggernaut right now, but if one of his two running backs goes down, I mean, I don't want that to happen, but I do think that, like, if that happened, that would like, I think he would still be a great team, good playoff team, could easily still do it, but he'd be way harder, like significant. I think Randy, you could withstand a wide receiver injury, but I think if Eckler or Jacobs goes down, that's kind of, I think, would be the main problem for you. I think we'll see. I think a big injury. I don't want it for the players, but I do think a big injury is still coming for one of our good teams, is what I feel.
It's statistically, it's quite likely that in the last few weeks.
And I'm just hoping. I feel like I know this doesn't matter at all, but since I've already had two, I'm like, okay, I've had mine, even though I know that's not how it works. That's like, I'm like, and you can ask Jack, he knows that's not how it works, but I'm like, I had my big one. All right, so Randy, if you can close out with what your prediction here.
Kind of surprised with how well my fantasy team has been going. Not gonna lie. I hope the final matchup is Sam and I.
Yep.
Literally, like, ex-champions looking for their second.
That would be pretty hype, actually.
That would be
hype.
That would be insane.
But other than that, I'm really glad I started the league and, like,
amen. Randy is actually
Randy, you're the godfather, the commissioner.
You know,
I would have never imagined to play fantasy with, like, this, like,
I know, right?
At all.
So much fun.
And then whenever y'all started, like, talking about it, like, an ounce of it, I was like, wait, guys, please, like. I was like, this would be something y'all would be fucking, like, addicted to. I can see it.
Yeah. And you were right.
All right, Jack, finish us off here.
All I want to say is I cannot believe you guys are going to let me get Benny Snell Jr. off the waivers
tonight. Hell yeah.
Take it away, Snell Jr.
All right, well, this has been, there's not a name for this. I don't know if we'll do this again, but appreciate y'all for coming. I'm going to make a thumbnail and put this out. Probably just send it to our fantasy group if they want to listen.
Sounds good.
But yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Appreciate you.